We're talking about background music for student movies. So you're making a movie for school and you're thinking of including background music. But why bother? Well, there are two pretty good reasons as to why. Firstly, the assignment rubric calls for background music. And secondly, you've done your movie, you've got your narration, you've got your images, but it feels like something is missing. So I guess the question is, what kind of music should you select? Perhaps you like rap or heavy metal, or maybe you're a fan of whatever happens to be popular on the radio at the time. Should you include some of your favorites from those styles? Well, the short answer is duh, no. And the long answer is that you want to select music that supports the emotion you are communicating. That's worth repeating. You want to select music that supports the emotion that you're attempting to communicate in your film. Now, since human beings cannot listen to two conversations at the same time, you want to select instrumental music that has no vocals in it. Remember, you want your audience listening to your narration or dialogue in your film and not listening to the words of the singer or rapper in your background music. If that's the case, your music really isn't in the background. Now, the piece of music that you're hearing matches the emotion and mood of this photo on screen extremely well. I'm going to let it play for a little bit to let you absorb the relationship between this music and the photograph. The piece of music is entitled Dark Times, and you can see that it goes extremely well with the image on screen. And that's your job as the producer or director of your student movie, is to select music that matches the images and the mood and emotion that you're creating on screen. And that's also why most movies have an original soundtrack that features classical music. It's music without vocals that expresses emotion really, really well. With this in mind, you want to select music that is like this, or like this, and not music like this, or like this. On screen now, you can see some images of musicians scoring a film, creating background music to television and movie productions. So, does this mean that we should perhaps find our favorite superhero movie and select music from that soundtrack? Well, the answer again is probably no. Because superhero music usually reflects power and danger and excitement, which is fine perhaps if your movie project is trying to convey excitement, power, and danger. But that is usually not always the case. You also don't want your audience thinking in the middle of your movie, hey, I know this music. What movie is this from again? It's on the tip of my tongue. Not when they're supposed to be paying attention to the masterpiece movie that you made. So, before you go hunting down tunes, here are 3 main criteria that you need to look out for when selecting effective background music. No vocals. Cannot overstate this enough. You don't want your audience listening to the words of a song instead of listening to the narration or dialogue in your movie. Secondly, you need to manage the volume levels well. Volume should not overpower the other audio elements in your movie, such as speaking in video clips, dialogue, narration, voiceovers, or sound effects. And thirdly, no illegal music. Unless you own the legal rights to the MP3, either because you brought it or because it's non-copyright or public domain music, you shouldn't be using it. You may not use any music illegally downloaded in your student movies. The same way that you would not use a stolen book in class, we will not use stolen music in school. So again, you want music with no vocals, you want to manage the volume levels well, and we're not going to use illegal music. Let's talk briefly about background music and the iPad. Working with background music on the iPad is a little trickier than working with a desktop computer, but it's not impossible. The big difference is that you cannot download directly onto your iPad from the internet. Typically, you would have to use a desktop computer to download music or to purchase from the iTunes store. Now, big red flag right here. You are not being asked to purchase music for a school project. There are essentially two things that you can do to solve the problem of not being able to download directly onto your iPad from the internet. Thing one, you can sync your iTunes library on your desktop computer to your iPad's music library. If you want to know how to do that, you could simply search syncing iPad to iTunes on YouTube and follow the steps of the videos that you find there. Thing two that you can do is you can email the specific MP3s to yourself and then import them into iMovie from your email account. In my mind, this is a much easier way to do it. You're only going to be working with the songs that you've selected, and just email those song files to your account and then open them from iMovie. So remember, you want to include the terms non-copyright or public domain in your keyword search terms. Another term that's also used is royalty-free music. Using the terms non-copyright, public domain, or royalty-free ensures that you're going to find music tracks that are free for you to use. This way, you're not using music that somebody should really get paid for because you've downloaded it and are using it in your movie. Now, on to one last thing. Beware, iMovie does not like gaps between songs. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're looking here at this audio track, you'll notice here that we have one audio track that ends at about the 4th minute, and then at about the 8th minute, another audio track starts again. And so you've got about 4 minutes of gap between audio tracks. iMovie does not like that. What iMovie wants to do is to have continuous tracks. As you can see here, one ends and another begins right after the red line. That can be a problem for you if you need to have a space in your documentary with no music. So how do we get around that? The sounds of silence. We recommend that you insert into your iMovie an MP3 of blank sound. That way, when your movie plays, you can still get your 1 minute, 4 minutes, or 30 seconds, or however long you want of silence. You can still have that in your movie. So there you have it. Some tips about making a great student movie on your iPad. Happy movie making!